Thanks, Hope, for having me here. I always love participating in conferences and sessions like this. I think it's so wonderful and it's so important for digital and social marketers to come together, whether it be from the brand side, which is where I'm currently at, or from the agency side, which is my own past background, and also from other folks involved in our worlds. We can learn a lot from each other, and as I present and talk at the end, I hope you have time for questions, and certainly, feel free to ask me, because that's what we're all here to do, right, is to learn from each other. A little bit about my background. Media and monetization is a little bit of an odd title. What it really means at Kraft is that I oversee our partnerships as well as our programming. So we have partnerships with our own Kraft brands, as well as we work with some trusted external brands, folks like ConAgra, who are speaking after me, and who I think will have many wonderful things to share there too. And then I also oversee our programming, which is our content development, our content calendar, our content distribution of what we do for our brands throughout our CRM channels. So today, I'm going to kind of cover three core areas. The first is just I'm going to give you a little context behind our CRM channels. I don't expect that everybody knows that we are one of the top food consumer recipe websites in the country, but if you do, thanks. And we were the #1 for Hispanic, and we have a great magazine, so I'm going to give you a little context about all that. And then secondly, I'm going to talk about what makes our channel so strong, which is the content and the reasons behind, which is a lot of data-driven content, a lot of usage of data in real time to help us do some optimization and measurement. It's a lot of data is what is behind our content. And then I'm also going to lastly cover a bit around why this platform is so valuable to Kraft, especially in today's data-driven world of DMPs and DSPs and programmatic buying and customized content, and how all of our focus on content has really positioned us well for today's data-driven age. So our mission in the CRM team at Kraft that we hold ourselves really accountable to is all around creating these delicious meal solutions and spreading them across our channels, all to inspire shareable food stories. We really want consumers to be delighted and inspired and to talk about them, all ultimately to drive sales and create value back to the organization. We hold ourselves extremely accountable to this. We've done some studies with in-store sales data to kind of prove the value of our channels. We constantly measure our programs with brands, but we hold ourselves extremely accountable to delivering results. And I think that speaks, to how we start and end with data all throughout our process. Our goal is for us to be the best publisher for our brands and for our retail partners and for other partners that we work with. Down, and it worked. Okay. So our channels, we are very fortunate that our consumers view us and trust us for content. We have a number of different channels, and in fact, we hit over about 20 million consumers every month in terms of cross-channel visits, from our magazine, which is 1 million paid subscription. Let me say that again, it's 1 million paid subscription. For those who are in the media industry and know, 1 million paid subscription is pretty close to what Food Network magazine's actual paid subscription is. 1 million paid subscription where consumers are paying us for a magazine devoted to content featuring our brands and our partners. That is pretty powerful. We also have a fabulous website that has been on fire for both general market and especially for Comida as well. But our website is one of the top endemic pure food content sites, and we've had tremendous growth. In December, we hit over 10 million unique visits, which we're extremely proud of to have that unique visit number. But what we also are exceptionally proud of is that well over 1/3 of our traffic is coming through organic traffic to the site, which means that consumers trust us so much that when they see us appear in their organic search results from Google or Yahoo or Bing, they click on those links and they come to our site. That's exactly what we want to do in terms of growing, is have consumers just coming to us on their own, finding us, making sure our content is findable and that they can come to our site and learn about our great recipes and food solutions with our brands. We also have an exceptionally strong email program where we reach over 5 million consumers every week. We send out both general market and again Comida, as well as we send out daily emails to a smaller size. Our email program is pretty exceptional. We work with Meredith as our larger marketing partner who helps us develop many of our channels. And so we have great benchmarks from them, from their own properties. We know that our open rates on emails are about 2 times the norm. We know that the renewal rate on our magazine is about 2 times the norm. So consumers not only are paying for our content, but they come back to it again and again. I would be remiss if I did not mention our mobile site, which is really part of our broader web strategy. Mobile continues to grow and is a huge focus for us. In fact, for our Comida properties, we're well over 50% of our traffic comes to us through mobile destinations. So it's important for us to have a mobile focus to how we're growing and evolving our channels. We also are very proud of our social focus and our social footprint. We have presence across Facebook, across Google+, which helps us with SEO, across Twitter, which is more run by our consumer relations team, across YouTube. We've got a lot of great how-to videos, on Pinterest, and on Tumblr. So very proud over the past few years that we've had a focus on innovation. And in fact, we've been one of the first brands that had a branded app around 5 years ago. We launched an app, and we continue to focus on innovation, which is why we've really embraced a lot of these social channels like Pinterest and Tumblr, for example, to help us grow, broaden our footprint, ensure we're reaching that right millennial audience. Pinterest has been a great opportunity and a learning ground for us. In fact, it's the #1 source of referring traffic back to our site. So SEO is still #1, but in terms of all referring traffic, Pinterest is #1. It exceeds Facebook by far. And we are continuing to test and learn with what we do with Pinterest, both from an organic as well as a dedicated board standpoint, as well as we've been recently featured, I think, in some articles on Ad Age, for those of you that read that trade, with a promoted pin test. So looking forward to continuing to grow and learn with Pinterest. Whoops, I want to go up now. So what all this means is that really, if you step back and think about it, we're a publisher. We are a brand as a publisher, but we own our channels, and that is hugely valuable to our brands. We changed the model of the way that we worked with the brands. It's actually why I kind of came over to Kraft. In the past, our CRM team just kind of allocated assets out to brands. Brands were never quite sure of the value. Sometimes they got assets that didn't align with their program needs. And then everyone was kind of questioning the value and the power, and the reality is, when you step back and looked at the footprint from a media standpoint, it was huge, but we needed to find a different way of working with our brands. And so we now ask them to opt in, and we ask them to treat us like a publisher, because we do have that critical scale, but in fact, we have better engagement than almost all of our peers and partners across their full platforms. But what we can do for our brands is just an unmatchable level of content integration, and we reach this audience of consumers who love Kraft, and they love all of our brands, and they're looking and paying for food solutions from us. And so as we act as a publisher, what we do is we deliver content from brands, whether it's their ads, whether it's new product news, whether it's new usage ideas. We spread that across all of our channels. And so we do know that our ad measurement, ads within our channels, whether it be from a starch standpoint in the magazine, whether it be on a viewability rate or a cost per recipe view on site, our ads outperform our Kraft norms for the rest of the industry. However, what outperforms our ads is our content. Content is the frosting on the cupcake for us. And by the way, these are pink lemonade cupcakes made with Kool-Aid lemonade, and they are delicious. But truly, content is the frosting on the cupcake for us. When we look in an average media banner, for example, is like a 0.1% click-through. Content click-through on our site can be like over a 3%. I was looking at something that was like a 4% click-through on Comida the other day. It's exceptionally powerful and truly gives us that opportunity to connect with our consumer. So a little fun story about this image. Anybody want to guess when we created this recipe and when we might have distributed it? What? It's a baby reveal. Anybody want to? And it's a little older of an image. It's about a year old now. Yep, it was for the royal baby's birth last year. So we programmed this piece of content for our social channels last year, and we had a lot of fun. You know, we know that in springtime, a lot of people are celebrating baby showers, wedding showers, etc. And we knew the baby's birth was coming. And that's a fun pop culture trend, you know, or not culture trend, but you know, it's a fun thing happening in popular culture. And you know, we wanted to respond to that. That's something that we can engage with, but we need to do it in the right and relevant way for us. The only way we can do that is by knowing who your consumer is. We have a CRM registered consumer database of over 15 million consumers. So that's not our broader Kraft footprint. We have a much larger DMP through all interactions, but in terms of a true consumer registered database, CRM has over 15 million consumers. And that provides a wealth of content and information for us in terms of all of their engagement with email, all of their engagement with recipe, specific brand affinity, specific types of recipes that we can use and mine to help inform what we do. So for the royal baby's birth, we knew that our consumers, they do love chocolate. I'm with them, I love it too. We also knew from social trends and some of our social places like Pinterest that handhelds and minis were popping, as well as baby reveal cakes were really starting to trend last year. And so we thought that was a perfect opportunity for us to program something special, these baby reveal cupcakes, with a that frosting is made with chocolate Jell-O pudding on top. And I think we're even dyeing that inside with either Kool-Aid or with Jell-O. So a fun way for us to celebrate the royal baby birth, but also connect with our consumer with the type of content that they have responded to. So this image, maybe not as many people might be hungry with salad, but this one makes me hungry. It's a current image that we're programming for Miracle Whip. It's a broccoli salad. We know that picnic and pasta and fresh salads are trending right now and are important for May and summer as people are looking for things to take to all their different summer gatherings once summer finally gets here. And so the way that we work and develop recipes is we work very closely with our culinary teams. We have a very deep content calendar that I'm going to talk about in a second, but we hold ourselves accountable to delivering food solutions that meet our consumers' needs. We will not have, our consumers are not going to spread and share and talk about a delicious recipe or a delicious new brand flavor or a new ingredient if the recipe isn't easy for them to make. So we try and focus on number of ingredients in the recipe. We focus on cooking methodology. We make sure that it's methodology that our average consumer knows how to do. We make sure that we're using pots and pans and utensils that our average consumer has. We know that not everybody has the fanciest, latest, and greatest from Williams and Sonoma. They might want it, but they probably likely don't have that in their kitchen. And so we need to think about all those things as we're developing recipes with culinary. Our culinary team does a deep pantry study so they can understand what are trending ingredients each year. For example, people are using less vanilla, but they're using more fresh Hispanic spices and flavorings. And so they can bring that to bear as they're developing new content and recipes for us. We work closely to understand recipe behavior on the web, like in places like Google, so we can understand what recipes our consumer is looking for, and in fact, even what are the recipe names that we should be giving new content ideas, so that way consumers will find them when they're searching. We develop at the beginning of every year a really deep and robust content calendar. It is multiple tabs, it is deep, it is a lot of small font, but it is robust across all of our channels. And we bring in a number of different data sources to help inspire us, whether it be those recipe trends through Google, whether it be from our own historical performance at Kraft, which we have something called our Kraft content analysis tool. So we know what recipes performed well last year on email, on the web, in our magazine, through Starch. We work closely with our Meredith partners to help us identify cultural trends and seasonal trends and information and program that across our content calendar so we know and we remember what's fresh and what's in season across the majority of the country. So that way we have those right recipes that are going to inspire her based off of the fresh produce that's available in her market. We also listen. We listen a lot, and we are proud that we have so many consumers and ways that we can listen. We have over 1 million followers on Facebook, and so we listen to their response to our recipes and solutions that we're programming. We listen and understand what are our trending pins on Pinterest, not only from the boards that we're curating, but also from content that consumers are finding and pinning on their own, whether it be in competitors' places or just trending in general. We take all of this and we roll that together with the seasonal and holiday cultural events. with prior year performance, with starch performance, as well as we incorporate our brand signature recipes. So we don't just program a content calendar in isolation and tell our brands like, oh, well, you wanted to talk about tuna salad in May, we weren't going to. That wouldn't jive. You know, we exist for the benefit of our brands. We hold ourselves accountable to helping the brands achieve their business results. And if our brand has a programming need to do something with tuna salad, we'll work with them and find that right content channel and content opportunity to program those solutions. So a couple of examples. I'm going to bring our current calendar to life. If you go on our website right now, we have a couple of rotating hero images, but one at the top is a picnic potato salad. We programmed that piece of content because we know that potato salad is a popular SEO keyword. Right now at this time of year, we know it's a cultural, I don't want to call it trend, it's just what's happening right now as consumers are planning for summer barbecues together. We programmed a pasta salad in the bottom of our homepage. We know that last year pasta salads were one of our more popular site search terms on our own site, and actually some of our pasta salads were our most engaging content shared in social places. We programmed a strawberry shortcake content through our bloggers. We work with a couple bloggers and they explore a couple different topics every month, and we program some fresh strawberry content because strawberries are what's starting to eventually come into season for us here. And who doesn't love a delicious fresh strawberry shortcake? We're programming a sizzling barbecue bacon cheeseburger, not just because I love bacon a lot, but because our Oscar Mayer team, as well as our cheese teams, are starting to work on their summer grilling and signature recipe strategies featuring different cheeseburgers. But ultimately, what we're trying to do on our website, we always look back to our master KPI. Our KPI in our website is to inspire her. So we want to have those images and recipes that are going to inspire her and connect with what's available for her in store. Oh, no. Okay. Email programming, I think this is last week's email. What's trending are season's best berries. So we program that headline based off of popular SEO keywords, which are berries, popular fresh produce that's available that are berries. We also know that in the world of berries, that strawberry kind of weights higher than cherries or peaches, well, not peaches, but strawberries, cherries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, that strawberries tends to be one of the higher shared social recipe terms, and so we'll program a lot of the strawberry content within our berry programming. We also featured a module all dedicated to different punches. In May, there's a lot of these weddings, showers, celebrations, Derby Day, and so we programmed different punch ideas because those correspond to popular on-site searches last year, as well as to those popular SEO keywords that consumers are looking for. So for social programming, our master KPI that we hold ourselves accountable is really to that sharing and engagement. So a couple different examples. For Facebook, we programmed some mini brownie petite fours, again connecting to that seasonal trend of weddings and baby showers. Within Pinterest, a couple examples of some of the pins that we've been doing is guacamole. Guacamole is a popular SEO term. It also links to Cinco de Mayo. Who wouldn't love some guacamole with some fresh bacon on top? We programmed a collection for frozen dessert recipes on Pinterest. We're starting to play around with individual recipes as well as collections on Pinterest. Last year, some of our top performers throughout summer on our site were frozen dessert ideas, so trying to drive traction and recognizing that performance from last year. And then within Tumblr, we're starting to have fun in Tumblr doing a wealth of different content creation. So whether it be step-it-outs, whether it be overheads, or whether it just be delivering a favorite recipe like our strawberry pretzel squares, we're still ultimately looking back to that engagement and sharing that's happening in that space. So within our magazine, the role of our magazine is really to wow our consumer. And I love this cover image. It is wow-worthy. It's not just because Brad Paisley's on the cover in the summer, although he's pretty wow-worthy, but it's an inside-out cheeseburger that connects back to a larger cheese scale programming that our brands are doing with Brad Paisley. where they've custom created a number of new cheese recipes all around summer and celebrations. And we get some beautiful images and chose this inside out cheeseburger that would just wow consumers. But as well as we also want to program that content that connects with SEO, that connects with trends. So programming our bacon top guacamole, programming our icebox chocolate cake, which I had last week for the first time, and it is darn good. But it corresponds to last year in our magazine. I think our top performing starched recipe was a frozen dessert idea, was a s'mores frozen cake. And so we wanted to program another frozen chocolate recipe. But what we're now starting to move to is not just using data to help us build this wonderful content calendar, but also help us find and respond to those things that are happening in real time. Because what we've started to see, especially through our social channels, is that great content will travel, but what you need to do is find those sparks, understand what's starting to pop, and then fan the flames so that content will become viral, it will keep going. So this is a fun image, and actually if you can see at the top, there's little Christmas ornaments in the background. These are mini corn dog muffins, and they're also good. I had them for the first time last week. They feature Oscar Mayer hot dogs, Velveeta, little Grey Poupon on the side. We developed this recipe for our holiday magazine last year. And then we noticed in the whole month of January, every week, one of our top pins was this recipe. We hadn't curated the pin, we hadn't put it on a board. Our consumers who had been in the magazine were going on the site, seeing this recipe and then pinning it back on Pinterest, and then their friends were pinning it and repinning it. And so we said, aha, this is an interesting opportunity that consumers are finding and loving this recipe on their own. And so we started programming it across our channels. And every time we programmed it, it beat our benchmark numbers. Whether we programmed it in our email, around like NCAA celebrations, we programmed it on Facebook, we also curated a pin. Every time we did it, again, it kind of popped back up into our top pins on Pinterest. So what we try and do every week is we look across all of our channels and we understand what are the top performers. And we can always see some trends. If something was the hero on our website, often we will see it pop in Pinterest. We'll see if it was a hero in our email, we'll see that again, it will pop in Pinterest. But what we're always looking for, what are those places that something popped that we haven't programmed it in other places? What are those interesting opportunities and observations? We try and share that information back with our brand teams. Sometimes that can be information that they can use in real time with one of their customer conversations as they're trying to do an in-store promotion or an end cap idea and work with the retailer to show a specific recipe in their trade materials. And so having this real-time trending information is valuable for our organization, not only from our platform, but also for our brand's marketing needs. So another way that we're starting to use our channels a bit more is to help our brands inform their content decisions. So Oscar Mayer wanted to figure out what was the right sandwich image that they should be using for a retailer partner, as well as posting on Facebook. And so we went ahead and curated 4 new pins for them of 4 different sandwich images. And then within a week, we had quite a response in terms of knowing which was the more popular image, which was the sandwich on the left versus the sandwich on the right, which I think had been their original plan. So we're using our own channels to help guide our brands in terms of their larger activations. We're also using our channels to help guide our own programming. So this is the second time we've done this. We did a Facebook post last week. We got back our photography for our fall issue, and there were a couple really beautiful images. And we were trying to decide which one we were going to put on the cover. And in the past, the most senior person, or like my boss or I, might have just made the final gut call based off of what we liked. But in today's data-driven world and in today's real-time social world, we don't have to just go on gut. We can go ahead and ask our consumers. And so we did a post and we asked our consumers which image they found more appetizing and delicious, this wonderful cheesy lasagna, or this beautiful rosemary and pork that's made with stovetop stuffing on the inside and rolled around. And our consumers answer us in spades, and the answer is always clear. It's hands down, they wanted that cheesy lasagna goodness. We still have people, who like the pork, and we will still feature this recipe in the magazine because it ties to fall trends. But in terms of sometimes picking those big winners for cover photography or big hero shots, using our own channels has started to become a very valuable and easy way to gain some quick decisions. So another way we're starting to use data more in real time, we are very fortunate at Kraft to have a very new and robust tool that we are able to pull in all different kind of social information across multiple screens at one time, so we can understand what's trending, how consumers are sharing conversations, who are more influential people, and we can use that to inform not only our CRM decisions, but also our brand decisions. As you can imagine, it's a wonderful tool from a consumer relations standpoint, so you can see if an issue is occurring, and our brands can easily and quickly respond to that based off of this information. For us in CRM, we're using it to help us do some gut checks in terms of our content. For St. Patrick's Day, that's a fun holiday, but it's only one day. It's not like multiple months, like the Christmas and Thanksgiving always kind of lead up for 2 months, and you have a wealth of programming opportunity. It's one day. And so you want to make sure that you're programming the right content in your social channels that is going to become more shareable. So we looked in January to see of those folks and conversations around St. Patrick's Day, if there were any common threads and things that seemed new to be bubbling up. And we saw in multiple places that green velvet cake was an idea that was being spread and getting engagement for St. Patrick's Day. And so our culinary team had some fun with that. They went and within a week had developed a new green velvet cupcake recipe featuring jet puff marshmallow frosting. That's delicious. And we then went and shot photography within a few more days down in a studio in our kitchens, and then got it posted up in our social channels. But all around using more relevant real-time data. We knew we wanted to do something for St. Patrick's Day. We might have looked at past performance and said, oh, this Bailey's cheesecake versus this chocolate cheesecake. But in this case, St. Patrick's Day is a more fun social holiday, and so we lean to more social insights to help us develop the right programming. So another way that we're using this real-time social data to help us react in the moment and reprogram happened in Christmas time. I think this tool was about 2 weeks old at our organization. So in December, we knew, and we had programmed across our channels, we know that peppermint dessert recipes are very important SEO keywords. We also know that cookie balls are an important SEO keyword, as well as sugar cookies. And so we wanted to understand what were the more important social conversations, so that way we could optimize our programming across Facebook or Pinterest. And we actually saw that peppermint dessert recipes by far were getting a lot more social conversation and engagement. And so we went into all those posts to understand, is there a common thread behind the most popular post around peppermint dessert recipes? Because we had a whole peppermint dessert recipe collection, we were programming things, and we wanted to make sure we were picking the right recipes. And we actually saw there was a common thread. There was a thread around peppermint sandwich cookies and peppermint fudge. And so we looked on our website, and we realized we had those recipes, but we did not have photography. And so within days, we went and we took those recipes and we shot new photography, and then we used those recipes and the photography to post across our social channels. So that way we could have that right content that would be engaging socially. And we also used because of Facebook's new algorithm, we decided to use the peppermint fudge as a test to do some promoted posts. And we actually saw that post beat all of our benchmarks with our media agency and become our #1 performing post for the year. So what all this means in today's day and age is when you have a great platform and you have great content, is it really gives us an opportunity. The scale and the penetration of digital and mobile channels now give us all the opportunity to have very personal conversations with consumers versus mass marketing. And in all honesty, we've been doing more of that mass marketing, but we now, because we can harness all of this data around the content engagement and bring it into the organization, we have that opportunity to do more customized content conversations, as well as to take these insights and help fuel our programmatic activity in the industry. Consumers view content on our recipe site and on Comida They view over 1 billion recipes a year. That is a tremendous breadcrumb trail of data that we can gather and harness for the organization. Our reach certainly makes us unique. So not only from our CRM platforms, but from all of our brand websites, from our e-commerce platforms, from all of our social channels across Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. But our content is truly what makes us rich and gives us a competitive advantage across the industry. From our custom developed recipes to consumer submitted recipes to videos to images and photography. I love it when the CEO of our organization stands up at CAGNY, which is the CPG big industry conference with all of the financial industry, and he talks about our CRM platform. He spoke specifically about how we've gained so many insights from this set of assets that can inform our organization, and that we now can use this data that our consumer traffic generates all to drive our decisions, to inform the precision of our marketing content, and also to better measure our ROI. So we are extremely fortunate that we have a proprietary advantage as a result of our content. So not only is our content built on data and optimized based on data, but it now generates data for the organization. So we create and grow and curate data that can distinguish us from the competition. And it can help us drive these personalized consumer conversations, whether it be to connect with baking enthusiasts, to connect with frequent cooks, to look for quick and easy solution seekers and offer them the right content and the right brand messaging, to look at budgeting moms. That is a really important area of focus for us. In today's economy, there are many consumers who are still really focusing on how they can stretch their dollar and how they can budget and how they can find those solutions that will still delight their families, but also respect their wallet. We can also look at how we connect with entertaining enthusiasts. So the first-party data and the insights that we're able to curate give us opportunities across audience, affinity, and behavior. So kind of a leave behind, and then we can move to some questions. But really, the takeaway from our approach to the science behind our content is, first of all, content absolutely is king. And so for us to create the right content, we are constantly mining historical performance, but also incorporating those cultural trends, those broader web recipe behaviors, along with our own marketing needs to guide our programming. But just because content is king doesn't mean that you can forget about the queen, and that queen is distribution, and she wears the pants. So if you don't focus on distribution and how you can get content out to your consumers, then you've missed out on the opportunity. And for us, that means having an addiction to measurement and data and reporting, to understanding what's working and how we can optimize what we're doing in our channels in real time. And so lastly, the depth of content that we have across our channels provides us with some valuable first-party data. And for us, we have that opportunity to harness the data to fuel our marketing efforts across the organization. All right, thanks. Any questions for me? I might be finished a little early. So any questions? Right, so that's a great question, and we do work closely with 360i, who is our social team, and our social channel lead is not here, but I can give a high-level perspective. So, it is important, and actually our tool that feeds in all the social data, we can now look across influencers and bloggers and understand, is their reach more localized? Is their reach more nationalized? We can look at who they're kind of connected with, and who is picking up and reblogging or resharing from them to help us make those decisions. There may be times that we would prefer a blogger who has more local influence. There may be times that we prefer a blogger who has more national influence. So, it certainly depends on the brand, the effort, and the overall objective of that campaign. So they treat us like a publisher, and they, instead of paying a huge amount of money up front to fund the organization, they pay as they go. So I wear partially an ad sales, marketing sales hat with our brands, as well as with external partners, to help listen to what their business challenges, help develop that right solution back in the way that they should use content and ad presence across our channels to meet their business objective. And then our media agency, they transact with an IO, they hold us accountable in a post buy, they hold me accountable to viewability or content performance or social engagement. And we look at how things are going, and then we optimize the plan as we need to.